But let's talk to Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under Barack Obama. Joel, very good morning to you.
Hey, Mike. It's great to be with you, and you have great predictive skills. You are right about what I'm going to say.
I know, it's funny that. It didn't seem like a particularly difficult one. I think a lot of people, I mean, even those who are Trump supporters, I've been speaking to some of them this morning, have all said, you know, Kamala Harris did an awful lot better than anyone was expecting her to do. James Carville, just before the debate, said Donald Trump's walking into a huge trap here, and I think he turned out to be right.
Well, the trap caught the cat. The people eating the cats. I'm not sure what it was exactly. Donald Trump did talk about people eating pets, apparently, which is not true.
But you know it's really not true, though, because a lot of people are saying it is true.
Well, a lot of people might be saying it, but the actual city manager of that city said that's a lie, it's a falsehood. And I even think J.D. Vance said it might actually not be true. Trump's vice president. Look, he walked into a trap of his own making. You know, he really, this is his 7th debate. He really talked down Kamala's smarts. He mentioned how she couldn't string sentences together. And then there she was, presenting incredibly well, eloquently, with stamina and smarts. And she understood how to get his goat, too, which I think is the key theme of the night. She was able to make him upset. And he ended up responding out of emotion. He looked angry. He didn't have a coherent policy agenda that he wanted to promote. And so in that way, she really ran circles around him last night.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly he wasn't prepared for the Kamala Harris that turned up, I guess, what I would say, because she has been talked down. I mean, she's only done one interview so far with CNN, which wasn't particularly hard-hitting. She wasn't really pressed on that much stuff. And she hasn't made a fortune for herself out of public appearances, apart from sort of pep rally type stuff. And so she did come across a lot better than everyone thought she would. Let's have a look at a couple of the clips on her, though, as well, before we look at his. This is her being asked about the economy.
Your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
See, for me, that was her kind of Meghan Markle moment when she went all Californian and just kind of talked about, you know, isn't it nice? It's a beautiful day and, you know, everybody has aspirations. We should all do really well and it's lovely. And you can't really disagree with it. It doesn't really mean anything. And it seems to me that, you know, if you were advising Donald Trump, if you were going to advise Donald Trump, surely you would say, like, go after the fact that, you know, there are some problems with the Biden and Harris administration, that she is currently in power, but, you know, there are problems in the country that they haven't fixed. And rather than sort of going on about how he doesn't think she's got a brain.
Yeah, you know, I think, look, to this whole point, like, if anybody had been watching Kamala Harris for the last 6-7 years, they would know that she is a bright, smart, articulate woman. Just because she hasn't done an interview over the past month and a half or so, or not many, doesn't mean that she can't compete. She was a highly effective senator. And so to this answer that she was asked, you know, what she was doing was laying out a foundation for what she wants to accomplish. And you're right, you know, Donald Trump just passed on it. He didn't really talk about his vision for the economy. And that's a theme again and again over the night, is that she was able to communicate that she had an interest in the American future and in the families of America. And here were things that she wanted to do. We could argue if we liked them or not, but she had ideas. And that's something he just did not have. He said, well, I had the greatest economy and it'll be great again. That's not a plan. And even jokingly, or maybe not jokingly, he said, I have a concept of a plan about health care, which seems like what he said for 4 years as president, that he would get rid of the Obamacare and replace it. He never did. So he really doesn't have plans. And that was shocking. I have to say one more thing to add, because the Trump campaign has consistently said that she doesn't have policy plans. And then right there on the stage, she gave more plans than Donald Trump.
Yeah. The trouble is, of course, I mean, we've seen all this play out before in Britain. You know, Keir Starmer got himself elected because he said he had a plan, even though Rishi Sunak, who was Prime Minister at the time, said, actually, no, he was the one that had a plan. You know, I fear that we're entering this kind of period of politics where politicians have learned, maybe because of good advisors like guys like you, they don't have to tell the truth. They don't have to say what they've actually got as a plan. They just have to say they've got one. And then when they get in, because now Keir Starmer's in power, he's now Prime Minister, he's now saying, oh, we found all these terrible things are here that we didn't know were here, and now our plan doesn't work. So now we're going to have to spend another year working out a new plan. And, you know, there's a kind of crisis in, I think, faith in popular politicians these days. I don't think anyone in America or here has been any the wiser watching campaigns like this.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all deserve better as Americans. I'll say, as a citizen, you know, I want to make sure that my government is working on my behalf and is clear-headed about what it wants to do. But I do think that Kamala Harris does have ideas that are serious. She wants to build off of what's been done over the last several years by the Biden administration, by President Biden. And this is a consistency that she believes that will continue to grow our economy. You know, this is not easy, turning an economy around from a devastating period where it was 4 years ago during the pandemic. And if I were to answer that question, I would have said, do you remember what it was like 4 years ago? We were all stuck in a house. Our economy was in free fall. Well, you're lucky.
I was coming to work every day.
Well, with my daughters and here in the United States, we all did shutdown and we were panicked, and we didn't have a leader in the White House who had a vision for how to get out of the pandemic. So that's what I would have also led with, and I'm sure that there will be a lot with that. But, you know, I do think the plans in the economy, for what she's arguing about, it's called the care economy. She's looking at the middle class. That's what she continues to focus on. And that's because independent swing voters in the key states that will decide this election, they are undecided, and they are going to look at what are her policy positions on very clear economic issues. And that's where Donald Trump failed to really articulate how he's going to make their lives better. That's a big problem for him in winning Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania.
I think it's a big problem for both of them, because I don't think anyone in any of those states has been changed in terms of which way they're likely to vote by anything they saw last night in this debate. Let's have a look at what Trump said about Joe Biden.
I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill.
I mean, let's not forget, until Joe Biden debated Donald Trump, he was the next big thing, even though he was the current president. You know, every Democrat that you could find on any part of the earth around the world said, oh, no, Joe's fine. He's absolutely great. No problem at all. No problem with his cognitive functions. You know, his press secretary kept batting away conversations, refusing to answer things. And now suddenly he was cast aside by the powers that be. And Kamala Harris, who had been previously not thought good enough to run, is now the queen of the Democrats, you know, and I think there's a problem there partially as well. I know Democrats that are not happy about the process being completely steamrolled over and suddenly anointing her instead of having a primary.
Well, poor Donald Trump. He really wants his old Joe Biden back, doesn't he? He was not having any fun last night at all.
He definitely preferred it when he was fighting Joe Biden. But let's face it, though, hang on. Joel, the thing is, this guy is not just poor old Joe Biden either. He happens to be president of the United States of America. Everyone seems to have forgotten that.
Look, you know, Joe Biden's been a very effective president. He stood up for NATO and our allies in Ukraine. He has helped to rebuild the American economy. He has gotten $2 trillion of funding passed into law that's rebuilding our infrastructure, and there's a lot more to go on and on about. But he decided.
But immigration is a massive issue in America, isn't it?
Immigration is a huge issue, of course, absolutely. And it's a shocker that Trump couldn't answer why he killed the bipartisan immigration bill that would have had a long, sustainable program in place to reduce the kind of immigration he's upset about. Instead, now Donald Trump wants there to be executive actions that are unsustainable, that are not.
He hasn't been president for 4 years, Joel. He hasn't been president for 4 years.
And this border crisis that Donald Trump continues to point about, this is a crisis that Joe Biden has, if you look at the numbers, immigration numbers are down exceedingly an exceedingly high level. We have our diplomacy with Mexico is enacting a program to make sure that the flow is reduced. What we need.
How many illegal migrants have come? How many migrants have come illegally to America since Joe Biden got in?
Let me explain what the bipartisan deal was. It was actually increased funding for adjudication of cases in courts. The Republicans blocked it at the behest of Donald Trump.
You didn't answer my question, Joe.
They're major. Well, because there's a comprehensive problem here on immigration issues that is not about building a wall. Notice that Trump didn't talk about building the wall last night because he knows that's a fantasy policy.
But your guy Barack Obama locked up more illegal migrants than Donald Trump ever did, and certainly a load more than...
known as the deporter in chief.
And why didn't Joe Biden do that?
The problem persists, and the problem persisted. This is the point: is you need comprehensive immigration reform if you're really going to handle this, and that's a reality the Republicans have not wanted to deal with. You have to deal with the 11+ million undocumented here in the United States. This idea of just sticking them on buses and somehow deporting millions, he did not want to answer that. You need to deal with these people here. You need to have a normalized border where you have enough ports and enough border patrol to actually manage it. All of that is what Biden has been proposing and Democrats have been proposing for years, and Republicans reject it, and they want to build walls that just don't work.
Well, I mean, I must admit, Joel, you've exceeded all my expectations at putting rose-tinted spectacles on the new Biden administration, which has only just got in.
And hasn't had a chance
to do anything for 4 years. Anyway, good to talk to you. I'm sure we'll be doing it again between now and November. Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under Barack Obama. Of course he thinks Kamala Harris won. I don't think anybody won, to be honest. I think she did better than everybody thought, but I don't think we're in a better place now than we were before, and it's still Donald Trump's election to lose.